Gather round, take a seat, grab your favorite drink. Let's dive into the Word and find out what we think. From coffee to communion, there's so much to explore. Truth and grace together, who could ask for more? Drinks and doctrine, raising our cups, faith and wisdom filling us up. Pour a little coffee, pour a little wine, talking about the sacred and the divine. So join us every week, bring your favorite brew. Drinks and doctrine, this one's for you.
Welcome back. Hey there, Fred Dog. How you doing?
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good. Good
How
to be
was your
back.
Christmas?
Christmas was wonderful.
I know how your New Year's was, and I don't want to talk about it yet until we get our guest in, who's as much a regular as a guest at this point. Welcome to the Ann's Pans. Welcome.
Ann's Panda.
You look like a panda.
I know you're Ann's Panda. I can't help it. I didn't have my stuff ready for you. I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared to provide for you a strong this.
Ah,
There you
yes.
A strong welcome. Sorry. I'm not fully ready to get back to work, guys.
Oh, we got another cheer.
Yeah. We're doubly happy to see you.
Yeah, I'll shut them up.
You get fruit salad and Panda.
I know you're Ann's Panda, but it's so easy to go Ann's Pans.
I know.
All right.
I was thinking Ann's Pans, and then I was like, yeah, but nobody really knows Ann's Pans, so I just went with Ann's Panda, so.
No, makes perfect sense, but I'm still going to mess up and call you Ann's Pants. Now, Fred, tell us about your New Year's.
Well, I mean, if you consider that I had a nice trip with an old friend across the country to New Orleans, was nowhere near the French Quarter when the tragedy struck. Had a nice day at the World War II Museum. We had some good Louisiana cooking food. You know, we had a nice time, but then we got to a football game called the Sugar Bowl.
Well, I think we want to focus a little more on what happened at the French Quarter. Let's ignore that part. Let's talk about the important stuff. So the important stuff is, thank the Lord that you did not feel like going and celebrating New Year's with however many of your unknown friends in the French Quarter.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you didn't do that. But you were safe. And what was the environment in New Orleans like after the horrible attack occurred?
Yeah, so the locals that we spoke with, whether it was people in restaurants or Uber drivers and, et cetera, they were all shocked. Nobody felt like New Orleans was the kind of place where this happens. I mean, people wanting to come and have a good time, eat, drink, be merry, listen to jazz, get away from things. It's the kind of low-key Southern atmosphere there. And they never thought this sort of thing would happen in their town.
Obviously.
So they were really processing this, and they were all, praying for the families. I was impressed by the local news stations, how much they focused on the victims and not the attacker, and did a really good job with that. But it was definitely a sombering experience for everyone.
Now, you say New Orleans isn't the kind of place that this happens, but neither is Boston, and you don't necessarily think of Boston or Wisconsin where the Christmas parade had somebody do something like this. You think of these as, when you're living in that place, you think of them as environments, but I'm starting to think that lightning is seeking you out, because you were also in Aurora, Colorado, very much considering going to the very infamous Batman movie
Yeah.
at the midnight showing for the Joker. And again, praise the Lord, you chose not to go. What made you choose not to do that one?
That one, I felt that one was like pressed on my heart for some reason. I felt like it just wasn't the right thing to do. That one I really felt like was God leading me away from going to that. I mean, in hindsight, retrospect, at the time, it just didn't feel right. Didn't really want to make. I don't know what happened. It's hard to recapture that, but before I was looking forward to going, and then before we got to the point of wanting to leave, I just felt like it wasn't the right thing to do. Didn't want to go, and we ended up not going.
Now, were you
the
inclined
French
to?
Quarter,
I was about to say, were you inclined at all to go? No.
no, we discussed maybe going to the French Quarter for beignets in the morning or evening, but we would not have been anywhere near it for New Year's Eve celebrations.
Okay, because this happened. What time did the attack happen?
Like 3 a.m.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty early. I mean, I thought it was, to me, it was odd that it wasn't right at midnight.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there was too much congestion at midnight, but he came in about 1 apparently and dropped off coolers of bombs and tried to prepare a bunch of stuff, and then came back at 3 for his attack.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that a bit. So he was, and we're not going to give his name as usual, 42-year-old U.S. Army veteran. It was on Bourbon Street. He drove a pickup truck into a crowd. There were 14 fatalities. About 35 other people were killed. He engaged with a shootout with the police, and he was killed. There was an ISIS flag on the back of the truck, which they quickly covered up. He had prepared bombs with a very rare explosive. So really not sure even how he knew how to make that particular explosive. I also heard that he had gone and made a video of his declaration of becoming an ISIS member or declaring his solitude with them, and planned to kill his family, but didn't think that would make big enough news. So we had that attack juxtaposed with the Las Vegas Tesla truck that had another U.S. Army veteran inside. Well, actually, I guess, I'm sorry, I'm really stupid when it comes to military. Are they veterans when they're still in the military, or are they just considered active military?
Well, I heard him referred to as a veteran, but...
Well, he's definitely not in it.
Yeah, I thought he was active duty, but...
Yeah, he's definitely still active at the time. He would have had experience with explosives and yet used a very
fireworks
common, very cool, I hate to use the word cool, but unknown explosive. So we had one very common explosive, whereas the New Orleans guy was using something that they haven't even seen here yet. So, and they're saying lone wolf, both sides. So I'm going to happily and somewhat tongue-in-cheek call this the conspiracy episode, because we're going to go over multiple theories, but I want to start with this one. Do we have any starting points for the theory? Well, I mean, I do want to give homage to, before we do that, to the incredibly sad lives that were lost that day. If I can find my... Yeah, this is it. And I know, I apologize that it's going to have a lot of... why can't I... Oh, there it is. I apologize. It's going to have a lot of ads in it. And it's like, now we're talking about the ads. But it is what it is, right? All right. So let's add that up there. These are the lives that were lost. This poor 23-year-old son, Kareem Badawi, I'm going to say names wrong because I'm such an ignorant American. But look at this young boy.
Oh.
I know.
This when I did see the coverage of this, Fred, on the news, and I saw them do this particular part where they went over the victims, I was just bawling.
Yeah.
Tiger Beck, he was only 27. Drew Dawson, 26. Nikra, I apologize.
Akira, I think.
Akira.
Oh, thank you. Nikira Dido. I'm going to go with Dido. This breaks my heart. She's got a 2024 graduation, and she's just a baby starting out on her life. And she's absolutely stunningly pretty. Although I do like the attitude we got going on in the face there. Like she I think I have a very similar picture of me in high school being taken. I was just like, I was so done with it. Then we have Billy DeMaio, 25. What is with these Frenchy names, Fred?
Yeah. A lot of
Hubert Gautreau. He's 21. I'm sorry, Hubert Gautreau.
I actually think Gautreau is the French variation of Guthrie.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I think that's one of the derivatives of the Guthrie name.
Look at this baby. What a baby. They were babies. And I, as a parent, I look at this and I think, your kid called you and said, I'm going to go do this thing. And you thought about going, don't do it. And then you said, nope, I'm going to let my child do the grown-up thing. And they didn't do a thing wrong, This beautiful man, Reggie Hunter, I think he was going to work or coming off of work. Terrence Kennedy, another beautiful man, lost. I'm sure his family is brokenhearted. Nicole Perez, her poor son, that little boy.
Yeah. I saw they did a feature on her. She worked at a local deli and she was training to try and open up her own restaurant someday. And she was like always on time, always early, always trying to learn more about the business. And anyways, they went on about her.
Wanting to give her son the best life.
Yeah.
Latasha Polk. Oh, I don't know who the gentleman is in the picture, but that. Edward Pettifer. Now, this one I didn't know about until I did the research. He's British. He's a British citizen that was lost in it. So anyway, I just wanted to give them, I know it's not much, but I wanted to give them a little time before we got into our crazy conspiracy theories to be a little somber, a little serious for them. So conspiracy theories. We've got two men, both in the Army, two men, both served at Fort Bragg, though not necessarily at the same time. Two men, both used the same rental app to get their vehicle. Two men use explosive. The one who should have known about it used a very common one. The one that shouldn't have known about it used a very uncommon one. So what are the theories?
Well, not only did they use the same app for the car rental, they both came from Colorado, too. So that was part of it, too, I believe.
Really? I didn't know that part.
I do believe both cars were from Colorado.
Yeah. Another little twist on the car rental thing. I had read that the majority share owner of that car service is Chelsea Clinton.
Huh.
Weird.
We're going to get into the conspiracies fast here.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a network. It's set up at Fort Bragg. The guy who was trying to shoot Trump at the golf course was a frequent 150 plus visitor at Fort Bragg. Was there often?
I am older, so my brain doesn't work as well as it used to. But was the shooting also at Fort Bragg that happened when they had the on-site shooting, or was that a different?
Oh shoot, I don't
I thought
remember.
that was
I know what
in
you're talking
Texas.
Was that Texas?
I thought it
Okay.
was a Texas fort, but I
For
can't
some
remember
reason,
where
as
it
soon as I
was.
heard Fort Bragg, I thought, is that the place that went with the shooting? And I didn't look it up because I was too busy looking up other stuff. But nobody's mentioned it, which makes me think it wasn't it.
That was Fort Hood in Central
Fort
Texas.
Hood. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So wipe that part out. That's nothing. I am going to be your Sully. Every time y'all say a conspiracy theory, if y'all both participate in this, I'm probably going to say no. So let me already start right off and say I can't do it with a straight face. I'm sorry. The authorities have told us there is nothing to be found between these two people that connects them. And as I understand it, all reporting on the man who blew up the Cybertruck in Las Vegas was a quote MAGA supporter, very excited about Trump.
Yeah, he tried to blow up the Trump Tower.
I did find that to be an odd choice. You've got a point.
Mhm.
But what on earth would make... I can see how two people would both choose the first to do something if they're going to do something. Okay, so let me try to put my non-conspiracy hat on. He was suicidal. He was depressed. I don't know why, because he was excited about Trump. Forget that. He has other things in his life that we don't know about that made him suicidal and depressed. And he thought that shooting off the fireworks in his car would not go, like he didn't expect that to happen the way it did. And so he set them off. Like he thought it would be set. Now, obviously suicidal because he... I know I'm about to get hit by something here.
Yep.
He committed suicide before. I know there's video, and if you want to produce the video, you can, but I know there's video that makes it more questionable. But I saw another video, and the video was of a couple in the 1950s that got married, and they're about to kiss at a cake. And it was a picture of the two of their wedding, and someone on the screen turned it into a video where the picture came to life. So is it not possible that the video of the man's head moving is fake or something that we don't?
You would think that they have raw CCT footage, that it wouldn't have been faked. It's possible, but they're saying there was no muzzle flash in any of the videos, even minutes and minutes before the bomb blew up. So they didn't see any evidence of a gun going off in the car.
So the conspiracy theory would be that he was shot before he went and the Tesla drove him there. Then why did his head move?
He is the actual guy.
Then why did his head move?
If he was, I'm just saying it might not have been.
Well, what you just said is that maybe the video was fake. So maybe it was faked that his head moved because they want you to believe that it was him.
Yeah. He was still alive. He drove up. He did it. It just, the one in New Orleans, I can completely understand. Islamic radicalism and wanting to kill people. This guy makes zero sense. There's absolutely
and by understand,
nothing
you mean,
about this.
by understand, you
illogically understand. There's
what
irrational. Yes, the irrational desire to punish the great Satan,
connect with,
which is everybody.
Yes.
Okay,
no.
so
I understand their motivations. This guy, it seems like such a weird influence of events and circumstances leading up to this and the bombing itself. The guy could have made a much better bomb, picked the worst vehicle on the planet to put a bomb in, supposedly shot himself. He's burnt beyond recognition, but his ID, which is on the dashboard in front of him, survives almost completely. His passport survives. All of this stuff,
But it was fireworks.
It's a little too convenient.
Yeah, it's just a bunch
for
of
my
weird
taste.
stuff.
Okay, so I do find it odd that he was beyond recognition, but his passport and his
We're
driver's
completely
license were.
unharmed. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I am sticking with the fact that, okay, so I also heard a story, and it's a true story because I know the people. 6 people, no, 8 people in a car. 8 people in a car. None of them wearing seatbelts. Have a major collision, including 2 of the people, a mother and a son, shot from the back of the car all the way to the front of a car. Not a single one of them's dead, and one of them suffered traumatic brain injury, but the rest of them all had minor injuries. Now, I happen to know that's God. That's a flat out miracle. But my point is, if you're strictly science, you're totally secular, which some people who are looking at this theory are, and then I can bring the God into it. I will, but we're going to leave that aside for now. It is possible for something like this to happen with scientific explanation, that the fireworks would go off, that he's immediately in front of the fireworks. The Tesla's holding the impact of the fire in the vehicle. It burns him up, but it doesn't make it all the way to the front of the car because it's more contained towards the back of the car. So he's thinking, I'm going to set off fireworks in front of Trump Tower because I love Trump and that's how I want to go out. I'm trying. Okay, I'm just. I told you. If you disagree, tell me how I'm wrong.
I don't know. I heard. I mean, again, there's rumors and unfounded speculation, but I had heard that he had sent something to his friends or people in the military that he was actually going to be releasing or testifying about some really bad misappropriation of funds in Afghanistan and maybe about the Afghan withdrawal. I'm not really sure. Something about Afghanistan he thought some explosive information about, and then this happens.
Explosive information.
Yes, I'm sorry. Maybe that was the thing. I've heard that maybe this was somebody's way of warning others off from speaking up about this kind of whatever was going on. But you add to the weird circumstances. So all of us on this call use a service called Signal. It's a secure encrypted communication platform. So all your information in the plant doesn't go through Google servers, and stay there forever. We have our own way to talk to each other, supposedly in private. We also know a number of military people who use the same service, and I've communicated with them when and they only use it when they're deployed, for instance. This guy had Signal. And before he supposedly blew himself up from the Trump Tower, his security PIN and information was changed and posts were made. And then after he died, his security PIN was changed back and more posts were made on his Signal account, his very secure military Signal account.
Okay, so before, and I heard that as well. So yes, as you mentioned, all 3 of us use Signal. We're all very familiar with having to type in your PIN. How does that exactly protect us, and why would somebody change it back? Because I can still send you a message even if I haven't verified my PIN.
Well, every time you want to use it on a new device, you have to re-authenticate Signal with the service using either the PIN or scan it and then put in your specific information and your security code. So in theory, I guess what they're saying is somebody authenticated Signal on a computer that wasn't his, made posts, and then de-authenticated it or maybe re-authenticated on his computer. I'm not really sure exactly the sequence, but it would have to be something like that. You can't just log into Courtney's Signal. I mean, the Kojita One Signal. We're very familiar here. Or Ann's Panda Signal and start sending texts unless you're actually at her computer and it's already logged in. So it's just another weird event that just puts mystery around what the heck was going on here to me.
I just know that out of all the information we've gotten over major events in the course of mainstream social media, there have been a lot of stories where it's come out later that we didn't get the full information. The information was falsified. There are mistakes. I mean, we could talk about going to COVID and all of the information that we were told about that, and how if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to die and you're going to be more susceptible. And now it's being suppressed, but you even have the CDC and companies coming out saying, oh yeah, it's the vaccine. The vaccine is causing multiple health detriments. I mean, just tons of stuff about how the vaccine is worse. So I'm like, it appears that there are many conspiracies that are past as conspiracies in the beginning that end up to be true. Like, you could start talking about the JFK assassination, because that's a whole
True. And it's funny you bring that one up, because I don't know about your generation, and my generation is right on the cusp of the ones who believed what was said about it versus the ones who didn't believe. And I was on the, come on, why would they lie to us about this? It would be horrible. Like, for them to do something like this to an American president. And I have been completely proven wrong. So I can understand why people would be reticent to believe information coming out. But my question to you would be, is your conspiracy going to include some kind of high level aspect to it, like some kind of government involvement? Like,
absolutely, I am almost 100% will say it's the government. I mean, I am part of the generation that I don't trust anything I see. I don't trust anything I hear. I completely believe it's all big corporations and government that are behind it, which, let's be real, the government is big corporations. So that's all I have to say.
So, all right. So I want to bring up another aspect of it too, but go ahead, Fred.
Well, as you bring up whatever this is, I mean, think about it. What do you know 10 years later? I don't know how many years it's been, about the Las Vegas shooting.
Oh,
I mean,
my gosh.
This thing,
right?
We've seen exposés, and it's nuts about what was going on the street from all the compiled videos put together. But have you heard anything from the government?
It's like they're not even,
the FBI.
They're not even trying to investigate it. I've heard more about J6ers of 2020 than I have about Las Vegas shooting.
And then I just saw, let's talk about J6. I know I'm going to get off track. There's too many conspiracies here, but just case in point, just today or yesterday was released the raw footage of something that was shown in the J6 hearings with Cheney and all those people, where they had actually manipulated the footage to put crowd noises and screaming and all kinds of tense, stuff like, oh, this is a horrible thing. And then when they show it, the video actually didn't have any sound. They made a dramatic movie out of the raw footage to try and prosecute poor Americans walking through the daggum Capitol.
And I've seen screenshots of officials, government officials with badges, clearing the way for people, letting them in. And
all right, we're gonna come back to
I know.
Jason.
I
want to stay on target. Stay on target, Padawan. All right, so there's that. We were talking about the Las Vegas Cybertruck, but we are also connecting it to the New Orleans attacker. Now, the New Orleans attacker, who seemed to be very adept at what he was going to do, as opposed to, so I'm giving you the kind of differences between the two, which makes me think they're not necessarily connected. Although I understand Anne's Panda saying government's behind, I don't care how, but they're connected because the government is behind it. But having said that, I am staggered by this guy in New Orleans. I mean, from the bomb that I already mentioned, made of materials that they don't have over here,
well,
to
for me,
this.
Yes, okay. I saw that. And the coolers that he placed, and then nothing ever happened with those.
Right. I don't know why.
But yes, I saw that he, what did they say? That he had done multiple trips from a previous New Orleans trip. He had video footage surveilling the territory, basically where he was going to do it, but he'd also
Mapping it
taken
out.
trips to Florida. What was the other one? I want to say it was like Canada. I might be completely off base on that one, but I know it was Florida and something else. But they're looking into his trips in those territories as well because of the footage. They're like, maybe he was planning something else and he's, I don't put coolers with something in them in those places too. But
I haven't.
it was very
heard
thorough.
that. But these meta glasses were used, and they were used in help with mapping out his route.
But then he wasn't recording during the actual attack,
I heard.
which I find strange. He was wearing them, but he didn't record it. Like this whole thing, he's trying to make a statement supposedly. And so like, why not record it? Why not hope that the footage gets out after the deed is done?
And this just highlights your point.
Yeah.
He was wearing them on the day he was doing the attack, but he didn't activate them. Do you think maybe that was an oversight?
I don't know. I think if you're planning something for as long and extensively as he was, it would be hard to have any oversights. So, I mean, I guess it's possible. Maybe he was just getting caught up in the moment and was too excited and didn't think about it. But I do find it odd. Like, was there actual footage, but they just don't want to release it? And so they're just saying he didn't record? Or did he just actually not record?
Yeah,
I
they
don't
said he
know.
didn't hit the live stream function on the meta glasses, but
So maybe he was
did,
recording.
but they suppressed it. They said he didn't, but maybe they did. But I mean, that's the sort of thing that I don't think necessarily has to be released to the public, but they could at least say
Right.
it was recorded and they're using that in their investigation or something like that. It would have been more honest to say if it had been recorded.
I don't that I will be with you guys on, because how long was it before the official government person came out after the mayor had already said it was a terrorist attack and said it was absolutely not a terrorist attack, when he had an ISIS flag on the back of his truck? What was the purpose in her saying that?
Also,
That's the
further conspiracy part of it, talking about the
FBI
mayor
101.
and the what do they call? Starts with a B. The polls that come up.
Oh yeah, I forget what it's called, but yeah.
But the fact that they are installed
Oh.
and they decided not to put them up, I'm like, why? It's not like there's traffic driving through there. It's just pedestrian traffic. So why not have them up?
But the point, even because they covered this on the local shows, even if they had been up, the guy drove through the sidewalk and they're not on the sidewalk. So
it
they
seems
need to
like
install
it's
them in the
making
sidewalk too.
Well, it seems like they were making it a little easier for him. So if he wanted to use the street,
I don't know. You know,
I'm just saying, conspiracy, part of the conspiracy.
Yeah, it is part of the conspiracy, but I have to the credit, and I pointed this out and when I was chatting while I was in New Orleans, one of the local channels was showing one of the street corners. They had a stationary camera, and there was like 8 or 10 police officers standing across the street, huddled together. And after the thing happened a block or two away, and they heard the screaming or the shooting, they took off. They look like special forces guys moving. I mean, just regular beat cops. They took off at a fast pace as a group. Straight to
after you told me about that, I saw that video and I was like, wow, that was good to see.
These guys weren't fooling around. Yeah, it wasn't like you hear about the school shooting or something where the guy's hiding behind his truck waiting on somebody else to show up. They took off, went right to well,
I don't think local police are necessarily part of the government corruption and conspiracies.
No,
I got to be on board with that one. I'd like to think that most of our local police are, I won't say all of them, because there was a great purge and they got to fill it somehow. And I don't think they're getting the best and the brightest to fill those gaps because of the purge. But I know I've got a glitch. That's also a conspiracy. A glitch in LA. everything is a psyop. The fact that you see something happening with my camera is a psyop.
When we see the black cat stutter on your screen, we know we're in trouble.
You'll know. So speaking of Meta, this happened.
Everyone, I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram.
Is it?
Is it?
Now, I guess
Isn't it?
this is Meta, right? This is Zuckerberg. He's the head
Also,
of
Yeah.
Meta.
the same dude. I'm like the dude who's been in control of Meta and Facebook for how long now?
Yeah, right. And so my first question to you guys is, what social media are y'all using right now?
Instagram. That's
So you
pretty
do
much it.
use Meta.
Yeah.
I got off of Instagram recently. I used to use it, but I don't.
I don't post anything, but I do scroll for content.
I'm not on Facebook. I downloaded my data about 4 years ago and had it deleted. I've just recently restarted using X just simply because they do tend to have, I get the stuff from Musk and Trump and a lot of folks that have interesting things to say, but I don't, not as much social media because obviously for many years, particularly once the pandemic, or as some conspiracy people say, the plandemic happened,
Yes.
the content was thoroughly, heavily redacted, suppressed, and deplatformed,
Yes,
so that it was
absolutely. Oh
pretty
my
much
gosh,
a
it was
useless
so
platform
bad.
for me. So
So the
yeah.
conspiracy theory here would be, because we've been told numerous times, not happening, but I think it's been verified at this point. There are government operatives there in Meta at this time, along with other big companies, but Meta being one of them, that are deciding what is allowed and what isn't allowed, right?
Yeah,
So this is,
I think it's come out that their actual departments or people from the government had physical space at the Meta buildings, headquarters, whatever, giving feedback and direction on things like
correct.
that.
Correct. So this
I didn't know
conspiracy has
that.
already been validated. So let's see what he says.
I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression.
5 years ago. What was happening about 5 years ago?
I wonder what you could be
Yeah.
referencing.
And what did Meta do about 5 years ago about that thing
I
that happened to
think
be happening?
he said the importance of free expression as long as you
As
didn't
long-
endanger people with
long
reckless
as you're not
information.
endangering people.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
correct.
I don't
correct.
buy it. Anyways.
And I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content.
Potential harms.
It's all about the potentials. That's the thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing today is we have to protect from the potentials, the potential to offend someone, the potential to lead them astray.
Give me the data. Let me do with it what I want.
That phraseology, potential harm, is a big one that I've seen come up in the past 5 years, 5, maybe 6 years. I've
Yeah.
seen them start to talk about how you could potentially cause problems. You could potentially do this thing.
I mean,
I can
they
refer
didn't
to it as
potential.
actually dangerous information, is what dangerous misinformation is how it's usually.
They're the ones that produce the dangerous information because, again, we go back and talk about COVID and the vaccines. I mean, I just talked to someone like 2 days ago. Bless her heart, older lady in her 60s. And I was talking about going to visit family down south. And she was like, oh, yeah, I've got family who lives down south. I can't stand it there. It's if I stay for too long because, I mean, the people, she started talking about the people. She said the people are nice enough. What did she say? It was something about unintentional harm. Or no, she said the bigotry and something else.
The
But
microaggressions.
Yeah, you got
But
to
she
stop
started
listening
talking
to
about how one of her family friends was talking about they were talking about COVID, and of course she's been vaccinated. You know, she's listened to the mainstream, But her family friend came in. He was like, oh, yeah, I had the COVID. I took the ivermectin and I feel great. So, and she went off about how he was the one who was misinformed and how she couldn't stand to be around people like that. And I'm just like,
her truth is
Yeah.
different from his lived
truth.
experience.
yes.
Oh my gosh. We want to get it. We could spend 2 episodes on this whole topic.
Oh my gosh.
Right going on today.
Okay,
is
okay, let's
International Consortium of Virologists,
let's get
Endocrinologists,
chucked off.
Pathologists.
Let's get chucked off the platform later. Let's stick with the topic. We're still talking about meta and meta influenced.
But yes, my point is they're the ones that are spreading the bad information, the harmful information. It is not the ones that were actually posting the science and the doctors and people say, okay, you know, it's fine.
So before you finish the video, I'm just going to say 2 week ago, Zuckerberg was down in Mar-a-Lago. I guarantee you there was a very firm conversation that was had.
There was a conversation, I'm sure. I'm absolutely certain of it. But all right, we're gonna have that question in a minute. Let's hear his argument out.
Okay.
Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more.
Have they? Have they?
Your legacy media, Zuckerberg.
A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there.
What's the bad stuff, Mark? Tell me what the bad stuff is. What are you defining as bad here?
Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation.
Thank you, Mark. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation.
Okay, there's a whole thing we could go on about child exploitation. Because freaking, okay, have y'all heard about the Wayfair conspiracy?
I think I have.
I think I've heard that.
Let's touch back on that. Let's stay on track. Write that down somewhere, and we will come back and we will have Conspiracy Day again, and we will come back to Wayfair. All right.
These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content.
Complex systems. Fred, what would that imply? Would that imply a lot of humans sitting at their computers reading personally each and everything to look for it? What are complex systems?
Yes, what you said.
Moderators.
You think it's people?
Complex systems. I don't care if it's artificial intelligence or just some heuristic algorithms to sort and prioritize. Human beings program them and put their biases into those systems. That it doesn't operate unless you want to build a truly neutral system, which is quite possible, but there's still human input.
Wants to do that?
It's like climate models, you know. Your climate models only as accurate as the input that you're putting.
I don't think there's a possible way to create by human hands something that does not have some sort of bias. I don't think it's possible.
Well, for these types of systems, it is possible to say if you're programming in things like filtering, bubbling up in priority, bubbling down in priority, doing all these different things, you can just put in fairly generic criteria that has nothing to do with the political motivation or political affiliation or, you know, gender, blah, blah, blah. There's ways to do it, but it's so easy to abuse it and exploit it that it's almost pointless for a group like Meta or Facebook or whatever they are these days.
But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes.
Complex systems, they make mistakes.
Yeah, sorry. Elon Musk just announced that they're going to start putting in new algorithms into X to deprioritize certain negative content. So even X is going to have algorithms to try and make it a more positive platform. So I don't know what that means yet, but again,
I hear you out. I just see a lot of people. Matter of fact, it's funny because they were talking about shot himself. Still going back to the attempt that the attack that happened on New Year's Day, that he shot himself, and it was SH little symbol T because they didn't want to be flagged by an algorithm. And of course, I did not read it as shot himself. And I'm like, what he what himself?
Right. Yeah, you can't say it. You have to put R star PE, things like that. It's dumb.
The fact that almost no one posts the word pornography They don't post the word. Anything that's going to get you automatically flagged by one of these bots that they have is what he's talking about. He's talking about the bots that go after you for sometimes stupid, no apparent reasons. Half of my thinking is that what views I have had on my video have been bots looking to see if I'm doing something bad, quote unquote.
Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark.
But
The
even
recent
if
election-
it's more like 50%, not 1%. So
we just reached that point now that I've talked to Elon Musk.
Also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech.
The election made that clear to him. and now we need to make that speech free again. Like, I don't know, the constitute. Okay, never mind.
So we're going to get back to our root.
Do what, Ans?
Should have been free all along.
Amen, Sister Fran.
And focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
That would be lovely.
More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes.
Where could he have gotten that idea?
I know.
Revolutionary.
Revolutionary.
Violation here. Copyright violation.
This is interesting. I don't think he would call it that because I think he got this idea directly. Like Musk said, why don't you?
Similar to X.
Oh, sorry.
What?
I know I'm messing up your video. I have to say, some of the most entertaining things I've had on the X platform has been when somebody posts a community note and then looking at the responses to the community notes where people are either validating it with the substantial information, not just the community notes, or if the community notes are the same old hyperbole and things like that, where there's no substantiation, they get so blasted and they knock that community note so far down that it'll never show up again because of this nonsense. I love it. Anyways, it's very robust. The community notes.
Fun times on X.
Fun times. Yeah.
Starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy.
The legacy media.
Yeah.
We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created.
Especially in the US. I'm blown away by this video. This video just, I can't with this guy. Like, and by the way, didn't we already have a come to Jesus moment with Mark Zuckerberg where he said, I'm going to make changes and everything's going to get freer? I think we've already had this speech from him in the past.
Especially
we
in the US.
could talk about the conspiracy, how he's a lizard man.
I was just going to say, maybe they let him out of the closet.
All right, hold on. We'll get to that too.
So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system.
Okay.
Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
Mainstream discourse? Wait a minute. I don't know if I'm in favor of this because if it's just out of touch with mainstream discourse, if your arbiter of truth is mainstream discourse, you're gonna be wrong.
Yeah.
Mainstream discourse for 4 years was take the thing, the jab.
Yep.
Take the jab. Yes, your 6-year-old child should take the jab. Yes, if you're pregnant, you should take the jab. Yes, you should take the jab 15 times and do it often, frequently, sometimes multiple times at the same time. Whole thing is ludicrous.
What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far.
It's gone too far.
It was
be-
the point.
To be inclusive is such a flippin' lie. It was not to be inclusive. It was to be exclusive. It was to now, I mean, he's a private company. If you want to be exclusive, you can be exclusive, but don't pretend like you're inclusive when you're exclusive. Like that's just a lie.
So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms.
Or you.
Third,
Do you?
we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms.
All right, here's where I have the biggest question. So for those platforms that are like their products, basically, I've been trying to sell you my live stream or whatever, and you have used those policies to ratchet down my viewership, my availability within the algorithm. How am I, what are you proposing that you're going to do to fix this problem? So if before this was instated, I had 1 million followers, and your ratcheting down has me down to maybe 3 or 4 of those followers able to see it, or maybe even 300 or 400 of those followers, how are you going to get me back up to 1 million people? How are you going to fix the mistake that you made here? Because I lost all that viewership. And a lot of those people stopped looking for it. As a matter of fact, many of those people have left the platform completely and aren't utilizing it anymore. How are you going to fix that? How can you repair this? I don't see how you come back from this. I genuinely don't. I don't care if you've got a new policy of enforcement. You already enforced it. You already created the problem. And a lot of the big names that were on the platform utilizing it are not utilizing it anymore, because even if you were to do it, they wouldn't trust you enough to come back. I
think there's very little relevant content on Facebook at this point. Anything's moved to Instagram, or people are a little more
X
culturally hip. And then I was talking about just the meta stuff, but X. So the people have really moved off that. I don't think that they're going to.
Yeah, I don't think I genuinely think they moved to X, because and to me that's the Mar-a-Lago visit, was him trying to, hey, I get it, you're the king, I'm going to kiss the ring, not to Trump but to Elon Musk when it comes to this platform business, because Trump has Truth Social, which I think has gotten quite a few people on it since just before the election, but still X is the bomb as far as those kind of, like, getting your news information, getting those kind of platforms.
We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high severity violations.
Any policy violation, any. Now we're just going to focus on these policy by policy violations. What he's talking about, Meta's policies, not the government's policies, right? Because you just said you were going to get rid of you were going to streamline it. You were going to make it more about illegal stuff. Why would you even still have those filters for why would you even have those policies if you're not going to have it filter for it? You're not going to be looking for it. Like, I thought you just said you were going to change your policy so that it didn't have that anymore. And now you're saying.
Also, this is a side note, but I don't know if it's just my screen or the viewing of this video, but I swear it looks like Mark just got in a fist fight with his right hand with that knuckle.
Ooh, I didn't notice that. He does have a really big red spot there. Of course, it could be a really bad wart.
I guess, but I'm just like, usually, like, when you're leading with a punch, that's the knuckle that takes it first, right?
Well, not if you're trained, Padawan.
Yes, the first two, but I'm just saying, like, I think our man has been fighting someone.
This is true. I don't think our man knows how to fight. Use your phraseology.
This is him punching the wall before he had to make this video.
No,
exactly. That's what I thought.
In frustration, I can't believe I'm having to make this video. Yeah.
Yep. I fully support that.
That's so cute. I just picture one word coming out of his mouth and it starts with an F. Anyway.
And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms.
You think genius? Do you think that? Do you think if you dial it back, you'll get less censorship? Is that how it works? Gosh, it takes a genius to run these companies. It really does.
We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off.
Wait. Oh, no. You know what? It doesn't matter.
It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down.
We're going to catch less bad stuff. We're still stuck on the bad stuff. We're going to let go of some of those bad things that are going on, like, freedom of expression.
Mm-hmm.
So wait a minute. How about that? What about that guy who went to jail for saying text here to vote for Hillary or whatever back in
Right.
2010,
But that
20,
no,
whatever it
because
was?
that wasn't him.
2012, right?
That was straight up government right there going after him. But they didn't go after the girl that said, text here for Trump to vote for
Right.
Trump. They didn't go
No.
after her, but they went after the guy. But that wasn't Facebook. That was the government. And yes, he was arrested.
I just saw
Fourth-
a post earlier today. Oops, sorry to interrupt again. I swear it was a Facebook post. It might have been a tweet. I'm not positive, but it was one of the platforms. And shoot, I don't remember. I want to say they were Islamic, but they had just migrated into Russia. I know that for sure. It was Russia. And they posted on, I think they posted on Facebook, and I saw this post on X. But anyway, they posted on Facebook and were like, watch out, we're going to come rape your wives and steal your cash and blah, blah, blah. And then within like 12 hours, they were found and arrested. And there was a picture of the three of them on their knees. And they're like, oh yeah, after they were arrested, they were crying and apologizing, saying that they didn't mean it. And so the caption was like, yeah, here in Russia, we take things seriously.
It would be nice if we took things seriously, like people posting that they want to blow up a building, but we stopped taking seriously people moving podiums and
yes,
and things like that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show, is immigration reform and what that means from all kinds of perspectives.
I've got that in the lineup, but we're already on the hour, so we got to move. We got to move.
Okay.
We're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it
was making people stressed. We
don't want you to be
down.
stressed.
We ratcheted down your ability to talk about Trump because it was making people stressed.
It feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into
they want to see it again.
Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.
Wait,
working
he's getting to the best part. I'm just waiting for the best part. Hold on.
Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas.
In Texas. We are getting out of La La Land, and we are moving to the land of the free.
Yeah. On the other hand, are they moving it to Austin, Texas, or are they moving it to rural Texas? Come on.
They got to go into one of the blue areas.
Yep.
There's no way. There's no way.
Houston
all right, so
based.
That's all we need from him. We don't need any more from him. I was excited about the Texas thing because, don't California my Texas.
Yeah, they're working on it, but that is funny.
I
think just the optics of saying it's no longer in California, that's all they're trying to get to. Look. Yeehaw.
We care about freedom.
I'm a real boy. I'm a real boy. All right, then we have this announcement.
I did hear about that. I didn't read the article, but that would be interesting.
So we have Dana White joining the staff there at Meta, at the board, I should say. So what do we believe to be true here?
So I think there's some smoke of mirrors, of course, at Meta. I think Zuckerberg and maybe the board, whoever runs Meta, I don't think they have any real interest in being a even middle of the road organization. Their entire culture, just like Google and all these other big tech firms, are extremely steeped in the idea of I don't know what the right word is. I don't think they can make such a paradigm shift that they're announcing here. It'll be nice that some of the content will be more accessible and he won't have people deplatformed and demoted and all that stuff as easily. But I think, they would have to make a change kind of like Musk did with X. He came in, overspent for X, fired 40% of the staff, started from scratch, rebuilt the algorithms, rebuilt the staffing, rebuilt the whole culture. And now you've got
like 80% of staff.
Might have been, but there's something like 500 million to maybe 1 billion people on X today. So that's how you make radical changes. And it took commitment on his part to lose money and to put the time into it.
And I don't think that's going to be something that Zuckerberg does. He's purely in it for money, profit, and control.
Yeah, I don't see how they're gonna. But because one thing you have to consider, all these platforms. Sorry, my feedback here. We're in a global economic society, so anything these big companies do, they're always trying to pander to their overseas constituents. They've got laws they have to comply with in Europe and Germany and Britain and all these other places, China, wherever else. Some places can't even use their tech, but the point is they end up taking something that started in America where you have things that are protected by our Constitution, our right of free speech and religion expression and blah, blah, blah. And then they try and move that globally. You find out very quickly, if you look at Britain today, and particularly what's going on with this whole thing about the rape gangs and the grooming and all that crap going on with the poor people in sex slavery. And you can't even talk about it over there because people have no right to free speech. So people make a post and all of a sudden they're surrounded by psychologists and 6 policemen browbeating them into either retracting it or going to jail. So their platforms are trying to chase these foreign markets to make more money. And so they start soft pedaling things here and there to keep it so that they can do business and make billions and billions of dollars. Musk outright said Britain, just like he said to the Disney CEO a few years ago, go yourselves, right? You use it or don't, but I'm not going to put my platform there if you restrict my content. So that's the commitment that has to be made. You have to say, I have a commitment to this as a business, or I don't. It's like Nike taking, or Disney taking black people out of posters, movie posters in China, right? It's all this kind of junk that they do to try and appeal to these global audiences. And it's either you are who you are or you're not. So anyways, that's a whole nother soapbox thing for me.
Side note, the first time I heard that the UK was enforcing TV licenses, I thought it was fake and that wasn't a real thing. And then I kept seeing videos of people having police coming to their houses, actually seeing if they have TV. I was like, I thought that was a joke. I cannot believe they have gotten to the point where they have to have TV licenses.
I don't even know about that. I'd have to look that one up. Wow. All right. So before we get, because I don't know how long you guys have for me here today, but I wanted to have a little fun too. So are you ready for this?
This product is going to revolutionize 3 critical industries: the power industry, the independence industry, and the freedom industry. This product is going to revolutionize all 3. Are you getting it? Ladies and gentlemen, We have harnessed the power of the atom. Introducing the Enron egg, the world's first micronuclear reactor for residential suburban use. This little device can power your entire home for up to 10 continuous years.
Yes.
Sounds great. Sign me up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is fake. That guy
course it is.
there. Does anybody remember the conspiracy? The guy that showed that, and there's a method to my madness. Told you I'd be your Scully today. The guy who said that the birds aren't real, that conspiracy. Does anybody remember the birds aren't real
Yes.
conspiracy?
Mhm.
Yeah, and that they're all drones.
This is that same guy. Now,
That's funny.
now we get to the fun part. Because that was fun, but it gets funner. Do you remember Taylor Lorenz?
Name sounds familiar. Can't remember
We-
why.
Just talked about her because she lost her mind, saying that she can understand why they shot that poor CEO guy. She felt joy. She was joyous over him getting
Right.
assassinated.
She was the one on the news. Gotcha. Who said that?
Okay. She's the same one that fell for it and went through the trouble of interviewing him. Let's hear what he has.
The people of Enron lied for years. How do you regain public trust?
I would define people, if by people you mean the 15 that went to prison. I would say there were 30,000 amazing people that worked at Enron that had nothing to do with the fraud and the scam and the scandal. And so I'm not a math guy, but 15 out of 30,000 is a pretty small number.
I mean, I'm so glad that you feel this sort of like level of love for the former employees and company. I feel like for most Americans, they don't have that positive connotation with the company. It did so much harm and it destroyed so many lives.
If you want to talk about lives that were destroyed, let's look at the 2008 housing crisis.
Okay.
Millions of lives destroyed, and only a few people went to jail. More people went to jail for Enron than for the literal destruction of the US and worldwide housing economy. And so I think that there's a double standard here that we're trying to shine a light on that says, hey, do as I say, not as I do.
You know, throughout this interview, you've been so optimistic. And I'm kind of wondering, how do you square that optimism with the very real harm that Enron has done?
The rhetoric of the word harm and just in general,
And it has done.
manipulative.
But we have to talk about the harm, the bad stuff that
No, we
Enron has
don't need
done
to
in the
talk about the
past.
harm. No, we don't. Who said that we need to talk about the harm?
I'm
I
saying,
would back up for a second and I would think, what is Enron? So Enron is not just a company. It's not just people. It's the look that your child gives you when they come down the stairs and see the Christmas tree in the
that's what
morning.
Enron is.
Yes.
Enron's a defunct company. It hasn't been around since like 2007.
Nor should it be, but that is just so awesome. I'm sorry. He did the same thing with the birds aren't real. Like he did an interview with, and it was just I don't think it was a national one, although you can't argue that she's national anymore. Where he talked about the birds aren't real, so just like that. Didn't break a smile. Didn't he seemed totally no, they're not real. And to the point where the guys were like, just off camera, you were joking about this. Just off camera, you were laughing. I don't know what you're talking about. Like he's
It's impressive.
so.
Yeah.
My point is, don't get duped. Don't.
It's very easy to get duped these days.
I know that's the thing. And I saw this. I was talking to Fred at the time. Actually, I saw the first video, and I was like, "This can't be real, right? This would be awesome if it were real, but this can't be real." And Fred, of course, that was the big naysayer this time, and because he's the technology naysayer. I'm the technology person that believes anything's possible in the next 5 years. He's the one that's kind of like, no, that didn't happen. But I've been told that we have reached the singularity. So the singularity is when we were doing better and better and better, like double fold. It's about to, because we've reached the singularity on tech, it's about to do this. it's about to just like that, where
Yeah. Well, no, I agree. And because, I mean, I've seen if we can survive as a species the next 4 to 10 years, I've seen so many things that are coming out, like you're talking about the singularity. We're talking about battery capacity that's 10,000 times the capacity of what we have today. We're getting actual nuclear fusion, cold fusion stuff is actually becoming a possibility. Things we're understanding about, so many things in physics and technology, computer processing, quantum chips are actually being able to actually replicate quantum interactions and study. They've actually finally paired light, like photons, whatever, and studied them interacting at the same time. And we're talking about something that is completely, talking about instantaneous communications anywhere in the universe. This is the start of that. So it's crazy the things that are actually happening in science that are just sort of the research and development stage. And in 10 years, when these things start hitting the market, people aren't going to, it really
well,
could.
they've already got a girl who has, I want to say, cerebral palsy, where she could not even really function. And they put a chip in her or did something. I don't have the story on hand. I'm going based on memory, so it means it might be a little messed up. But anyway, she got to the point where she was able to, within a few hours, manipulate objects, put stuff on the computer, play a computer game, to later on being able to talk, and just things that she hadn't been able to do before. So there is I agree with the original sentiment we were talking about here, where you've got the possibility of things being questionable when it comes to the government and big corporations, which I think has been kind of the theme here. But at the same time, I think you could lure me into accepting some of this technology. I'm interested in hearing it. I haven't seen it yet, and maybe it'll be a topic for a later date. But they've already started marketing out to people, uploading your consciousness to the computer, and their marketing apparently is pretty persuasive to some people.
Well, isn't it? It's an Asian country. I want to say it's Japan. It might be South Korea. I swear I saw something where they've come out with a piece of technology that can basically record your dreams, and then you're able to watch your dreams back after you wake up. I don't know how it works, but I swear I read something about that, and I'm like, that is absolutely wild.
That was a book in a Schwarzenegger movie.
I know. I'm like, it sounds like science fiction, but I swear
total recall.
Well, anyways, with this, we need to do a science show, because a scientist is captured both, doing observations, and they did a computer model to represent the studies they were doing. We're talking about a space that is 1 billion million millionth of of an inch or something. It's this extremely small space, only big enough to hold 2 protons. They were showing the energy fluctuations, all the quantum energy fluctuations that were happening within that space. It was incredible. Basically making the point that, as we've been talking about,
there is a God.
Yes. Space is not empty. Space is not space. I have one of these. It's just a kind of a what do you call it? A harebrained, one of Fred's crazy ideas at this point. But if what they're saying is true, you talk about the quantum foam, space being something filled with all this energy. You're not talking about dark matter and all this stuff. We have tangible matter, and we have life, and we have consciousness. But space itself, to me, it could quite possibly be the neurons of the universe, of creation. All of the empty space we see is simply quantum processing, essentially artificial intelligence of the universe. Everything, all the interactions that happen, all the energy that's going on in empty space. You've got 99% of creation is empty space, yet it has energy, it has action, all the stuff's going on. I think it's quite possible to find out that space is like one giant God computer. He put it out there, and it's actually running all of the operations of the physical matter of the universe. Anyways, just weird thing. I'll put it out there 20 years. Y'all come back and say Fred was crazy. But
all right, science at a later date. Did you have anything that you wanted to? Because I see you've got something in the queue.
Oh, we don't. This is a whole new subject. We don't have time. It's more conspiracies, so we can go into that later.
Well, I apparently
But
have a hot
on the science
here.
and tech, it is a hot topic. But on the science conspiracy, since we're talking about science, I thought it was very interesting. The Russians had launched a moon probe. They were testing going back to the moon, and it was supposed to land in August on the moon. But there was some kind of misfiring of the probe or of the lander module, and it crashed into the moon. So I'm wondering if the US had anything to do with their module, their lander crashing, because there's absolutely no reason something in lunar orbit would crash into the moon with some random little misfiring unless it was shot down or it was scrambled or something happened. I'm putting that out there. I don't think it crashed.
This is going to have to be a later date. It's going to because I've got nothing on this. I've not heard this at all. So I wouldn't be able to participate in the conversation even mildly, but definitely we could bring it back up. Okay. Ans, I didn't even ask your schedule today, like what you have time for and what you don't have time for. Because
I'm fine.
You're fine. Because I did have one more question.
Yeah.
What happened to the drones?
Oh yeah, they just went away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all are even like, what drones? Wait a minute. Yeah. All right. So about 3 weeks ago, we've already been memory holed on something that dominated pretty much every social post I was looking at. Mysterious drones spotted in like 6 states, and everybody's got theories about it. And I remember seeing a lot of posts where they were making fun of people. This is a drone, this is a drone, this is a drone. And it was all like normal, everyday things you would see in the sky, like a kite and a Boeing plane or whatever. But did they decide that they weren't really drones? Did they decide that they were recreational drones and so you didn't need to know about them? Did they decide that they were just gonna bury it? What's the conspiracy on the drones?
So, well, I have 2 or 3. I think one high possibility, one top candidate is that there was nuclear material stolen from a train in Pennsylvania, and these are quite possibly government military drones with radiation detectors flying around trying to find traces of the material that was stolen. Now they say that there's not enough material, wasn't the kind of material to create a bomb, blah blah blah, but radioactive material, you make a dirty bomb or whatever, it doesn't matter if it's a bomb-worthy material. So I think it's possible the government was searching for the stolen material. No, but it could quite.
Do you think it was the material in the coolers of the the New Year's morning attack?
I don't think it was that. I don't think it made it down to New Orleans. But
I was just trying to tie it together.
I know. Now, it's possible it was a foreign nation, but there would have been, if it were a foreign nation putting drones over our coastland, there would have been reportings of ships being blown up and submarines being sunk off the coast in the Atlantic coast. So I don't think that was a real possibility. Given the fact that our government allowed balloons to fly over and all that stuff, who knows what's really possible? But I don't think it was Iran. I don't think it was China.
Well, I saw something with a video. People were talking about how the drones were spraying something.
That's possible too.
Okay.
I mean, mystery fog.
Yes.
Even
I was about to say that brings me to the next thing. There was a British man that reported on the mystery fog here in the US, which I found interesting that we don't have national reporting of this mystery fog. that's apparently in multiple states, all the way across the nation, from California to Florida. And it smells like chemicals, and they're saying it is making people sick.
Right. And I reached out to
So,
a family member who lives in Florida, and she said, we've been having a lot of weird fog, which they always say is ocean fog, but I swear to you, last week it had this weird smell of natural gas, and we have no natural gas lines. I got up this morning in 38-degree weather and still had weird fog. I'm on the fence on this one. But anyways, so yes, people reporting an odd fog with an
now
odd smell.
I will say that humidity breeds unhealthy things. So if you have a lot of humidity, it is possible that you could be interacting with some unhealthy bacteria or virus that's actually making you sick. That would be, in quote, the fog. But the conspiracy would, I guess, come around in the fact that it's showing up in pockets in fog in various places. Like,
Right.
why the fog? Why the humidity making fog in those? Is it just that they're warmer climates, and so they're more likely to create that fog in certain weather conditions?
I think one conspiracy is, and it's not as the thing I'll present as a conspiracy. The fact that parts of this are going on is not a conspiracy, but there is a ton of cloud seeding going on from the U.S. government in this country and maybe around the world.
The fact that people think that's a conspiracy is nuts.
No, so they're seeding all this stuff, but I'm saying maybe what's happening is other nations it's like a warfare. It's like weather warfare. They've sprayed, they've seeded. Now we're spraying, and I mean, there might be some type of chemical warfare going on, trying to control and de-control weather. Just a thought.
And you think, like, when they were trying to control the weather, there was chemicals used that is now showing up as a fog, that it smells funny?
Well, it's not a try and control the weather. It's the scientists. Joe Rogan had them on a show and had the scientists study Hurricane Milton and how its weird trajectory and everything that was going on, and studies from government. But basically, the scientists on his show were like, yes, this was controlled. This was a man-made weather event. So I'm just saying, or maybe it wasn't Joe Rogan, but Alex, the one that's always called crazy.
Alex Jones.
Yes, it might have been his show. So the one who's always
I've
crazy.
seen your underwear.
Yes, but
And
he's
your
always
frogs.
proven to be right. The
frogs are
water's
gay.
turning the frogs
Yeah.
gay. I
Yeah.
mean, they proved that to be right too. I'm
I
just
mean,
saying.
Frogs Day.
I think one of the points of this show, and that we can draw a conclusion, in something that we've observed over the last at least 5 years, most conspiracies have at least some kernel of truth. Whether it's the complete truth, whether it turns out to be something that's reliable, who knows? But 99 out of 100, or maybe 9 out of 10 conspiracies we've seen over the last 5 years have at least turned out to be true, or mostly true, or at least partly true. And I think that we can't disregard things just because they're poo-pooed by mainstream media or by certain political parties. So it's worth looking into. It's like science. Well, is this bad science or good science? Science says start knocking off all the pieces with science until you come down to either it's all true, or some of it's true, or none of it's true. You can't just say that's a conspiracy theory, that's crazy, and dismiss it. And you can't say this is the honest truth, 100% effective, absolutely stops the virus here, nobody can transmit if you get, it's there's somewhere in between probably. And we have to get to that point again as people and a society where we can find that place in the middle that's the complete truth, versus we just have to keep throwing stuff out there so people look into it, versus deny. Come on. So as I don't know where we draw this on our Drinks and Doctrine platform, where we're trying to tie this to a biblical worldview.
I was about to say, how are we going to tie this back to God? Because it's all got to come back to God. What as Christians should we keep in mind, and what as Christians should we do in the midst of all these conspiracy theories that are going on?
Well, I think, and Ann's Panda can chime in here, but to me, God is in control ultimately, no matter what we do and what stupid things we do and say and think and often horrendous things that we do. Ultimately, God is in control. So we need to be calm, take a step back, and realize that we don't have to react every moment to everything that's going on. All the dozens of executive orders that have gone out that are just going to harm Americans over the next few months or years if they're not overturned. That's bad, and it seems irresponsible and all of that. But at the same time, it's not the end of our world. It's not the end of the world. And we know the truth. And I think as we as Christians speak the truth into the world, whether it's just talking culturally about something, but particularly when we're talking about God's truth through the world, to speak into Britain, what's going on with that culture and the things they're going through, they wouldn't be where they are if they were still following God's word and had a true purpose, a true Christian purpose in their culture. Same thing in America. We have a lot of bad stuff happening and a lot of things we don't understand and don't trust, and a lot of things that the government gets away with. Well, why is that? Well, we've sent ungodly men and women to be our representatives. We've sent people who won't speak the truth to tell us what to believe and how the world works. I think this may be a kind of a great awakening should continue to happen, where we test things against the word of God. We test things against the truths that God has given us from time immemorial, and then we apply them to every circumstance, whether that's community, politics, science, all this stuff, and see where that leads us versus just kind of chasing the bouncing balls of the culture. But maybe that was too many words, but that's what
I do think we need to recognize that the ultimate truth is God. I mean, that's going to be our foundational truth for science. It's going to be our foundational truth for how we interpret the events of today. Everything's going to come back specifically to the word of God, because we have concrete words from God that we can look to, read, and take hope in, take comfort in, take encouragement in. And when we spend more of our time reading TikTok, and I don't know how much TikTok you read, you really just watch it, but you know what I mean. X, Facebook, the more of that content we take in and the less of the Bible we take in, the more hysterical we can become over various conspiracy theories. And as you were saying, you should deeply rely on God and his sovereignty over it all anyway. So take comfort in that. I would add to that Matthew's text on do not be anxious about your life. I think it's chapter 6. What you will eat, what you will drink, what you will put on. Is not the body worth something to the Lord? Is it not worth more than the 2 sparrows? Is the clothes that you wear not worth more than the flowers of the field? They are even more splendor than Solomon, it says. So when we get all wrapped up in concern over the daily stuff and we forget to put our faith and our trust in God, then we can become very concerned. I see that the 3 of us do not really have that problem, because we all took every one of these conspiracies with a smile and yeah, we kind of know this is going on, but we're all very comfortable in, no matter what happens, even if the worst happens, that our ultimate destination is going to be with the Lord. Whether that destination is still here on earth, we will walk with the Lord, or whether it's beyond what happens here on earth, we will be with the Lord physically. Either way, we're okay. So I think that's probably the best, putting those 2. But I'm interested in knowing if Ann's has anything to add.
I mean, I think y'all pretty much wrapped it up, but my brain automatically starts thinking, the fruits of the Spirit, one of them is patience. And, a lot of people hear these stories or these conspiracies and they either immediately jump on board or immediately are against it. And I think patience plays a large part into it, because it's like you have to wait, you have to research, you have to look into it. So like y'all said, not getting hysterical about it and sitting in it and not freaking out. So I just think of that.
I wonder about your take on that, because when you look at your generation, it's very serve me now. I want it now. And so
Instant gratification culture.
Right. So when something like this happens, like the New Year's Day attacks, they want the information, they want the answers now. Give us what you know now. Now. Back in my day, you had to wait for print, you had to wait for television. Sometimes they would break in and breaking news, and then they would only have like 30 seconds to give you what's going on. Bank robberies happening in downtown Atlanta, and more news at 5, or we'll give you updates at 5. And you had to wait till 5 to get the whole story, which gave them time to go gather real data. They just gave you what they knew, which was that a bank robbery was happening. They didn't do the whole, we're thinking it's a white dude that was wearing a MAGA shirt, and, like, they didn't have to do that. But nowadays, everything's so 24/7. They feel pressured to put out anything and everything that comes into their little brains. And sometimes to the detriment, because they're trying to protect information, they start putting out false information to try to protect what they do know. And I would argue even sometimes for good reasons. Like, they want to protect what they know because they want to catch the guy. Not in this case because the guys were dead, but maybe they're going after somebody and they're thinking, okay, if we put true information out there, that will give him a lead or her a lead to get away, or to maybe not be able to use in the interrogation and scare them or whatever. So I could see how they would want to put false information out then. But what's your take on getting maybe the more, and I would say my generation has changed. We used to be that way, but now we've learned to be more, hey, give it. I want to know now. So how do we get that patience other than pray for it? I mean, obviously we pray for it. Like, that's the obvious answer. But.
Yeah. But I was going to say that actually, I think it's starting to turn around, because the more I talk to young people, the more they kind of have the same mentality I do. They don't trust anything they see and then feel the need to do their own research. Now, when it comes to public schooling and education, I still think that's not necessarily the case. I think what a lot of teachers is still being taken at face value, which I think is degrading, which is very sad and unfortunate. But my point is, when it comes to news and things like that, I think the younger generation is actually more of the, I'm not taking it at face value kind of thinking, which is good. I think we're going in the right direction, hopefully someday. But the majority of news consumers are still of the mindset that I want to know what's happening. I want to know the details now, and I want all the details no matter what you have. So yes, how to get more patience? I think yes, pray about it. Ask for patience.
I'm just thinking more along the lines of when we're talking to somebody who's not a prayer, who doesn't know God. Like, obviously our first priority is to get them to know God, but when they're coming at us with these kind of conspiracies, how can we get them to go, just take a breath, take a beat, sit down, be
Facts
patient.
always seem to be, I mean, I say facts, but you watch videos of the people who do the debates and they throw facts at these people and they don't care about the facts. So
they don't
I don't know.
Well, yeah, once you've got an agenda that you've got to defend, once your team is on the line and you think they might score a touchdown if you just cheer them on hard enough, they're gonna stick to it no matter what you show.
So I think a large part of it is patience on our side, being patient with them, being forgiving of their attitude and impatience, giving them the freedom to come to us instead of forcing on them. So, giving them the time and space to hopefully become patient.
Okay. Good on that. Fred?
Well, a couple things. Well, a lot of trust has been broken over the years, and it used to be, Walter Cronkite, the most trusted man in America. right? You get information, but now there's so much bad information, like you're saying, a lot of people don't trust it. And I think that it's interesting to me to see, or encouraging to me to see in these big public forums where people are thirsting for the truth. And like we were talking about earlier, we know who has the truth. We know all of the source of truth in creation. So if we can keep interjecting God's truth and God's word into these discussions and helping to shape people's worldview, why is it bad that these people in Britain are raping little girls? Well, that's bad. Why is it bad? You got to get down to it. Well, I mean, they paid a lot of money to hush a bunch of people up, and they've created these communities where they can get away with it. That's not okay. Well, why isn't that okay? Why is the value of a human life? Why is the innocence of a child important? Why does an unborn baby matter? All these conversations we can start directing that back to a greater conversation about the value of human beings, the importance of God's creation. We can all agree we don't want the planet to blow up, but we can all agree that, let's have that conversation that carbon dioxide is actually the foundation of life on this planet. We're at the lowest levels of CO2 in history. We're about the coldest point we've been in history.
All right, don't start a whole nother one.
I'm saying these types of things are important because as conservatives and liberals, we can save the trees by growing bigger trees with more carbon dioxide. Let's have a real conversation with people. Let's build ability to have truth in our conversation. So anyways,
there's a hole in the sky where the tree once was. Somebody's making money.
One last little tech thing, because I thought that was interesting, talking about truth and reliability and what people are willing to, how they feel about what people tell them. There was a study I just read recently. It was an academic or it was a study. I can't remember the exact term, but it was a study done by a company looking into AI in medicine. And it was talking about expert systems, where they took a bunch of general practitioners, specialists in the artificial intelligence systems. And what they did was they had thousands of regular people, the patients, asking questions to their doctor, asking questions to the specialist, asking questions to the artificial intelligence. And 79% of the people preferred the answers from the AI and thought they got a better response and a more empathetic response from the AI than they did from the human doctors.
Wow.
So this is how disconnected people have become from other people in our culture. And I think that's something else too, how to relate to human beings. That's a skill I think we've completely lost. Anyways, I just thought that was
I think we've also, as human beings, lost love for one another.
Yeah.
It's about us. It's about our happiness and our worlds and being successful in our own lives instead of communities like we used to live in, and our neighbors and our church families and, all the groups of people that used to exist day to day. It's more about the individual. And so I think there's less love that people have for each other. I mean, I just saw a video, this poor old lady was singing on the subway, and it was in New York, and some dude just came up and stole the money right out of her bucket, and the woman screaming, "Police, police, police," and nobody is stopping to help her or stopping the dude running away. And we've just had too many instances of the people who do show love for one another and stand up for one another. They're the ones who get in trouble. And
yes, Daniel Penny.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so people are about protecting themselves because those who show compassion and love are
how many years did I don't know about you, Ans, but I talked to you, Fred, about how frustrating it was that people were holding up cameras recording these horrible things happening and nobody's getting involved in doing anything. Mm-hmm. And then we finally have people going, I can't take it anymore, I'm going to do something. And they end up having to get their lives ripped apart, get called all sorts of horrible names, and then they have to go to court and spend their life savings on protecting their lives, not just their name, but their lives.
These are life decisions, though, partly because I say move to a small town.
It's true. I say
yes.
Get away from the rats.
The top 10 losers of population were blue states, and the top 10 gainers of population the last few years are red states,
Oh,
because
California,
people
Texas.
are attracted to the idea that you matter. You know,
Shocking.
yeah.
Okay, shocking. All right, we've gone way well.
Way
I mean,
over.
I don't know. Like this, if it takes off at some point, we could make it longer. But we've gone longer than I anticipated. I'll just put it that way. And yet, we still have so many things that you brought up that we haven't been able to discuss. On my list, we covered 3 of them out of the out of the 15 that I had. So that tells you
Whoops.
that we didn't. Well, the good news is we didn't need all that content. The bad news is we didn't get very far. But so you might have to go through something really well. If I look down the list, I would argue that we covered the best stuff. So it's not important. All the other stuff wasn't really that good. So if you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like what you saw, sorry. You know, we're doing the best we can. I thank you for watching anyway. Maybe you'll like and subscribe anyway to get more irritated with us and tell us exactly why we screwed up. All right. On that note, may the sunshine warm on your face and the shield protect you, and y'all have a great week. Bye. Everybody say bye.
Bye.